Most people live in reaction mode. Something offends them, they lash out. Someone disrespects them, they raise their voice. A situation doesn't go their way, they explode, defend, or shut down. But here's the truth. When you respond emotionally, you lose control not just of the moment, but of yourself. Emotions are real, they're human, they're valid, but they are not instructions. They are signals or data. And if you want to grow, if you want to lead, your job is to listen to that data, not become a slave to it. Let's be clear. I'm not telling you to feel less. I'm telling you to process more. You see, observation is where growth begins. When you stop for a moment and simply watch without reacting, something powerful happens. You gain perspective, you see patterns, you notice truth, and most importantly, you discover things about yourself you would have missed in the heat of emotion. Emotions are often misunderstood. Most of us grow up thinking that when we feel something deeply, anger, frustration, sadness, jealousy, that we must act on it, that we should express it, respond to it, or do something about it right away. But the truth is, emotions are not instructions. They are data, signals, clues. They tell us that something matters, something needs attention, or something is off, but they don't tell us exactly what to do. That's our job. That's where our growth begins. Imagine emotions like notifications on your phone. A notification tells you something has happened. It asks for your attention, but it doesn't demand that you immediately click, respond, or act on impulse. The mature choice is to check the notification, understand its source, and decide how or if you want to respond. Emotions are the same way. They're alerts, sometimes loud, sometimes subtle, that tell us there's more to explore, but unless we learn how to interpret those alerts, we risk living reactively, not intentionally. Let's take anger, for example. Anger isn't inherently bad. In fact, anger often shows up to tell us that a boundary has been crossed, that we feel disrespected, or that something we value has been threatened. But if we treat anger as a command, something that tells us to yell, argue, or fight back, we miss the point. We turn a potentially meaningful insight into unnecessary conflict. But when we treat anger as data, we can ask, why am I feeling this? What belief or expectation was challenged? What's underneath this feeling? Now, instead of reacting, we're investigating, we're learning. The same goes for fear. Fear is often misunderstood as weakness, but it's just another data point. It tells us where we feel vulnerable, uncertain, or unprepared. Fear reminds us of risk. That's valuable information. But again, it's not a command. Feeling fear doesn't mean we should run or avoid the situation. Sometimes it means we need to prepare more. Sometimes it means we're on the edge of growth. Treating fear as data allows us to use it as a compass, not a cage. Reacting is something we all do. It's wired into us. When someone cuts us off in traffic, we slam the horn. When a colleague says something irritating, we snap back. When life doesn't go our way, we vent, complain, or retreat. These are natural, automatic reactions born out of habit, instinct, and emotion. But leadership doesn't come from what's natural. Leadership begins the moment we move from reacting to responding. There's a big difference between the two. A reaction is immediate, it's fueled by emotion, and often serves to protect our ego. It doesn't consider the long-term consequences. It doesn't pause to ask what's really needed in the moment. A response, on the other hand, is intentional. It takes a breath, it creates space, it chooses to act based on values, clarity, and purpose, not just emotional charge. Think about the leaders you respect most, not just those with titles, but those you genuinely admire. They aren't the ones who yell under pressure, who retaliate when criticized, or who blame others when things go wrong. They're the ones who stay calm when others panic. They listen even when they disagree. But responding means you take a moment, you consider the intent, not just the impact. You recognize that their words might reflect more about them than about you. And in that space, you regain control. You no longer hand your power over to the moment. This doesn't mean becoming passive or suppressing your feelings. It means mastering them. A true response may still be direct. It may involve confrontation, but it will come from clarity, not chaos, from purpose, not pride. Reaction is about you. Response is about the situation. A reaction says, I need to protect my image. A response says, what's the right thing to do here? And that's why responding is a mark of leadership, because it demands maturity. It requires you to rise above the noise of your own emotions and ask, what outcome am I really aiming for? One of the most powerful things you can develop is the ability to pause. Just a few seconds. That pause changes everything. It gives you a chance to step outside of your autopilot mode. It lets you question the story your emotions are telling you. In that pause, you move from impulse to intention. The truth is, anyone can react. It takes no strength to lose your temper or to defend your ego, but it takes real strength to respond with integrity when your pride is on the line. It takes strength to stay composed when everything in you wants to explode. That's the discipline of a leader, not because you suppress your feelings, but because you choose your expression. Every day, you'll be given opportunities to practice this. Someone will misunderstand you, life will throw curveballs, your expectations will be challenged, and in those moments, you get to decide, will I react and let the situation control me, or will I respond and take control of the situation? Responding is where growth lives. It's where self-respect and respect for others coexist. It's the quiet power that builds trust, earns influence, and shapes character. Reacting is natural, responding is leadership. One takes nothing but instinct. The other takes intention, discipline, and heart. Choose the latter, and you won't just lead others, you'll lead yourself. Would you like this version formatted for Instagram, YouTube voiceover, or a short speech? In today's world, the word upgrade is everywhere. We upgrade our phones, our laptops, our wardrobes, even our jobs. But when it comes to our inner life, our mindset, our character, our emotional maturity, many people confuse upgrading with escaping. They think that if they leave a toxic relationship, switch careers, or move to a new city, they've upgraded. But unless something inside has evolved, nothing outside has truly changed. An upgrade isn't about running from discomfort. It's about transforming because of it. Real growth isn't flashy. It doesn't always feel good, and it definitely isn't instant. Upgrading your life means facing yourself, your habits, your triggers, your insecurities, and asking hard questions. Why do I react the way I do? Why do I keep repeating the same patterns? What part of me is still holding on to the old version of me? This is the work of evolution, and it's slow, uncomfortable, and deeply personal. The truth is, most people don't want evolution. They want escape. Escape is easy. It looks like avoiding hard conversations. It looks like blaming others for your pain and never looking inward. But what you run from will follow you. Because the common denominator in every situation you walk into is you. And if you haven't upgraded yourself, you'll recreate the same struggles in a new environment. Upgrading means choosing growth over comfort. It means taking full responsibility for your mindset, your energy, and your emotional regulation. It's deciding to respond instead of react, to reflect instead of blame, to stay calm when chaos shows up. These are internal shifts, and they're not visible on the outside, at least not right away, but they are powerful. Because once you evolve internally, everything around you starts to align with that new version. There's a quiet confidence in someone who's truly upgraded. They don't need to prove themselves. They don't need to shout about their worth. They walk differently, and they choose their words more carefully. They set boundaries with love, not anger. And they no longer see adversity as punishment, but as part of the process. They know every challenge is an opportunity to level up their thinking. When you evolve, you stop chasing shortcuts. You realize that upgrading isn't about having more, it's about becoming more aware, more grounded, more intentional. You're not trying to escape who you were, you're building on it, honoring the lessons, not discarding them. You start to see failure differently too, not as proof that you're broken, but as feedback, data, insight. Evolution requires this mindset because growth is not linear, it's messy, repetitive, and often silent. The people who truly grow are the ones who choose discomfort with a purpose. They don't look for the exit when things get hard. They look for the lesson. They ask, what is this trying to teach me? That question alone separates escape artists from true transformers. So if you find yourself wanting to quit, wanting to run, wanting to start over, pause. Ask yourself, am I evolving or escaping? Because one leads to freedom, the other leads to repetition. Upgrading means facing the parts of yourself that no one claps for. It means improving your emotional resilience, your discipline, your patience, your honesty. And it's quiet work, lonely work. But it's the only path to becoming someone who can sustain success, not just taste it for a moment. Upgrade. by evolving, not by escaping. Otherwise, you'll keep resetting the same story, just in a new setting. Would you like a shorter version of this, turned into a caption or voiceover script? Every day, people show us who they are. Through their words, their tone, their choices, and their behavior. Intentional or not, they reveal their values, their fears, their insecurities, and their priorities. But too often, we miss the lesson because we're too busy being offended, defending ourselves, or fighting back. We take things personally. We react. We lash out. But in doing so, we lose the most valuable opportunity to learn. When someone speaks to you with disrespect, they're not necessarily revealing something about you, they're revealing something about themselves. Their level of awareness, their emotional state, their lack of control. It's easy to match that energy, to get pulled into the emotional chaos. But if you do, you're no longer observing, you're participating. And the moment you participate in someone else's dysfunction, you abandon your own growth. People will show you how much they respect you by how they speak when they're angry. They'll show you how much they value integrity by how they act when no one is watching. They'll show you what they prioritize by where they place their time and energy. Your job isn't to correct them or control them. Your job is to observe, to understand, and to decide how you want to respond. The real strength lies in restraint, in seeing a person act out of alignment and choosing not to react emotionally. That doesn't mean you tolerate disrespect. It means you don't let it decide your behavior. You use their actions as data, not fuel. You say, this is who they are right now, and from that place of awareness, you make decisions that protect your peace. There's a level of power that comes from becoming unshakable, not because you're numb, but because you've trained yourself to watch instead of react. You learn to ask, what is this person's behavior teaching me? What's their pattern? How do they handle stress, failure, success? That's how you gather truth, not through confrontation, but through observation. Many people are walking around with unresolved pain. They're projecting, overcompensating, manipulating, not because they're evil, but because they're unaware. They haven't faced their own inner noise, so it leaks out onto everyone around them. If you make their chaos your concern, you will constantly be dragged into unnecessary drama. But if you observe from a place of curiosity instead of judgment, you'll learn who to trust, who to avoid, and who's worth investing in. Sometimes the best response is no response. Silence is a language. Distance is a decision. Maturity is knowing when to engage and when to walk away. Every reaction you give costs you something: energy, focus, peace. You don't owe everyone a debate. You owe yourself your growth. Learning means watching how someone acts and asking yourself, does this align with my values? Do I want to be around this energy? Does this contribute to the kind of life I'm building? If the answer is no, you don't need to fight, you simply need to adjust your boundaries. Let them be who they are, but you decide how close they get to you. In every interaction, people are teaching you something. Some are showing you what love looks like, some are showing you what to avoid. Both are teachers. But you only learn if you don't take the lesson personally. The moment you lash out, the lesson gets lost. Your ego takes over. You make it about being right instead of becoming wise. So the next time someone shows you their true nature, watch closely, not to judge, not to punish, but to understand. Because wisdom comes from observation, not reaction. People will always reveal themselves. Your job is not to fix them. Stillness is often misunderstood. In a world that praises hustle, noise, and constant movement, stillness can look like weakness, like passivity, like you're not doing enough. But in reality, stillness is one of the most powerful forms of strength because it takes real control, real awareness, and real courage to be still in a world that wants you to react to everything. Most people live in constant reaction. Someone disrespects them and they respond instantly. Life throws a curveball and they panic. They're always moving, always talking, always proving. But underneath that frantic energy is usually fear. The fear of not being enough. The fear of losing control. The fear of sitting alone with their thoughts. The stillness removes the distractions. It puts a mirror in front of you. And so so many avoid it, but those who learn to embrace stillness unlock a deeper kind of power. Stillness doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing the inner work quietly. It means choosing not to respond with anger when provoked. It means breathing before reacting, thinking before speaking. It's the pause between what happens and how you choose to respond. That pause is where your power lives. It's where you reclaim your control, where you stop the cycle of emotional reaction and start the process of intentional growth. Think of the strongest people you know. They don't need to raise their voice to command respect. They don't need to dominate a room to feel important. Their presence speaks louder than their words. That's stillness. It's a kind of grounded confidence that doesn't waver with external chaos. Stillness is the ability to sit in discomfort without trying to escape it, to feel pain without letting it dictate your behavior, to be present with your emotions without being ruled by them. When you're still, you see more. You notice patterns. You recognize your triggers. You hear the things people don't say. You learn how to read situations clearly because your mind isn't clouded by urgency or ego. Stillness sharpens your awareness, and awareness leads to better choices. You don't get pulled into petty arguments or impulsive decisions. You act with clarity, not confusion. Stillness is also the birthplace of vision. Some of your best ideas, insights, and breakthroughs come when your mind is quiet. Not when you're chasing, forcing, or stressing, but when you're present and listening. It's in the silence that truth shows up. In the stillness, you begin to hear what really matters, your values, your purpose, your next step. And stillness is strength because it's rare. Anyone can react. Anyone can speak out of anger, panic, or pride. But to be still when everything in you wants to act, that's discipline. To sit with your feelings instead of unloading them onto others, that's maturity. To walk away from conflict, not because you're weak, but because you value your peace. That's power. Stillness is not about inaction. It's about inner alignment. It's about knowing that your worth doesn't come from how loudly you speak or how fast you move. It comes from how deeply you know yourself, how steady you remain under pressure, how intentional your actions are, especially when no one's watching. In a noisy world, stillness is rebellion. In a reactive world, it's leadership. And in a chaotic world, it's your anchor. So don't mistake stillness for weakness. Understand it for what it truly is: focused, controlled, conscious strength. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say nothing. Do nothing, be still. Because that stillness, that's where the transformation begins. Every level of growth demands a new version of you, not just a better version, a different one. You can't carry old habits into new seasons. You can't think the same, react the same, or move the same and expect a new outcome. Your next level won't be reached by doing more of what you've always done. It requires a new operating system, an internal upgrade that rewires how you think, what you prioritize, and how you lead yourself. Right? Most people try to improve their lives by adding more effort, more hours, more information. But real transformation isn't about addition, it's about replacement. It's about uninstalling the patterns, beliefs, and behaviors that no longer serve you and replacing them with ones that do. Because the operating system that got you to this point isn't powerful enough to take you further. That system is outdated. It was built for survival. But your next level is about purpose, alignment, impact. Take a moment to consider your old patterns. Maybe your current system runs on perfectionism. You work endlessly to prove your worth, hoping achievement will quiet the doubt. Or maybe your system runs on approval. You shapeshift, overextend, or stay silent to avoid conflict or gain acceptance. These strategies might have helped you fit in, avoid failure, or stay safe in the past. But they are not sustainable, they are not scalable, they are not meant for where you're going. To operate at the next level, you have to install new code. That means replacing insecurity with self-trust, replacing people-pleasing with boundaries, replacing emotional reactivity with emotional intelligence. That means learning to sit with discomfort instead of running from it, to speak the truth even when it's not popular, to stop seeking permission and start walking in conviction. All of these are internal shifts, but they change everything externally. Upgrading your operating system is uncomfortable because it means letting go of what's familiar. Growth always costs comfort. You will outgrow people, environments, routines, and even parts of your identity. That's not a failure, it's a sign of evolution. But you must be willing to release the old in order to receive the new. You can't download new software if your system is full of old junk data. You need space, you need clarity. Your next level will demand better habits, not just in how you work, but in how you think. Are your thoughts aligned with your goals? Do you speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you love? Do you set your day up with intention, or do you let it pull you in all directions? Your answers to these questions reveal the strength or weakness of your current system. The truth is, every external breakthrough is preceded by an internal one. Before anything changes around you, something must shift within you. A mindset must break, a belief must be challenged, an old identity must be dismantled, This is what growth feels like. Not always inspiring, sometimes frustrating, but it's necessary. Because you can't operate at a higher frequency using the same emotional bandwidth you used to survive the last chapter. And here's the beauty of it. Once the new system is installed, everything begins to flow differently. You don't need to force as much. You make better decisions. You attract better energy. You respond with clarity. You become someone who builds the future rather than reacting to the past.